Hi, in today's lecture, we will look into the different types of keys and the design procedure for keys. So what is a key? So key is a machine component which is used to connect two shafts, or it is used to connect the hub and the shaft. It prevents movement between the two shafts, and it also helps to transfer power from one shaft to the other shaft or an attached component. So here we can see a picture of a key which connects two shafts. One is a hollow shaft and one is a solid shaft. And the keyway is also shown in the figure, and the key seat is shown in the solid shaft. So at the bottom we can see some examples of shafts where we have different keyways, and the figure D shows a parallel type of key. So here in this figure we can see the keyways, a square type of key, and the key seat. So keys are very important components for power transmission. So when we need to transfer power from one shaft to another shaft, or between a shaft and a coupling, keys are used to ensure that there is proper connection between the two rotating elements, so that there is complete transmission of power without any loss or slipping. So a key is usually made up of steel, and the key seat or the keyway is a part of the shaft and the hub. So advantages of keys and keyways is that it is very cheap when compared to other joining elements like bolt, nuts, or other jointers. They are well standardized and they have good torque transmission. They are easy to mount and dismount and can easily be reused. Some of the disadvantages of the keys and keyways are that it is not suitable for alternating loads or when there is a sudden shock. So there is also a possible axial displacement of the hub unless the key is locked using an extra component like a screw. Over time, keys will become very tough to dismantle or to remove from the shaft. Keyways sometimes introduce stress points due to the notch effect, and therefore there's a reduction in the strength of the shaft. It introduces a shaft imbalance, and it is very difficult to calculate and combine the load carrying and the tolerance to combine the it is difficult to calculate combine the load carrying over the shaft, and also it is very tough to calculate the tolerance of the shaft. It uh, it requires a stop lock to transmit axial force. So there are different types of keys. So we'll be looking into the different types of keys now. So we have the sunk keys, the saddle keys, the tangent keys, and the round or circular keys. So under sunk keys, we have the rectangular and square keys, parallel keys, jib head keys, feather keys, and woodruff keys. Under saddle keys, we have the flat and the hollow keys. Parallel, square key, and the woodruff key are the most commonly used keys because of their it's less cost and ease of use. So this is a rectangular key, so we can see the cross section of the key is rectangular in shape. This is a square key with a square cross section. So both square keys and rectangular keys are having a taper of 1 is to 100. Only parallel keys do not have this taper. So parallel keys do not have the taper of 1 is to 100. They can either be square or rectangular cross section. The next one is a jib head key. So jib head key is where you have a jib head attached to one end of the key. The key is of rectangular cross section. Feather keys. So there are three different types of feather keys: double-headed, peg feather, and feather key. So a feather key is a key where you have a moving element, where the key itself is movable and you have other components attached to this moving element. So in a peg feather key, we have a small peg which is attached to the key. In a double-headed key, we have two heads at the ends of the key, and then in a feather key with fixing, we have keys where you have provisions for screws or bolts, and then we have the standard feather key which doesn't have any such fixtures. So next one is a Woodruff key. So Woodruff keys have a rectangular cross section, but they are of hemispherical shape. Next one is saddle keys. Now saddle keys are placed on top of the shaft. They can either be a hollow saddle or a flat saddle. They also have a taper of 1 is to 100. The next one is a tangent key. Now the tangent key is a key where two keys are placed one over the other and they're tangential to each other. They both have a slope of 1 is to 100. Around a circular keys are keys with a circular cross section. So here in this picture we can see a single round or circular key attached to the central hollow shaft. So design of keys. So before we look into the forces acting on keys, let us look into the dimensions of the keys. For a rectangular sunk key, the width of the key is W, which is nothing but D by 4. D is the diameter of the shaft, and T is the thickness of the key, which is nothing but 2W by 3, which is equal to D by 6. For a square sunk key, both the width and the thickness is the same, so it is equal to D by 4. For a jib head key, the width and the thickness of the key is W and T, whereas the length of the jib head is 1.5 T and the height of the jib head is 1.75 T. So here also the key has a taper of 1 is to 100 and the angle the jib head makes with the horizontal is 45 degrees. So now let us look into the forces acting on a sunk key. So there are two forces acting on keys. So we have the force F1, which is nothing but the force acting on the key due to its tight fitting inside the shaft. Now a compressive force acts on the key since it is tightly fitted in the shaft, and this force is generally very difficult to determine, and therefore it is neglected during the design process. And the next force is F, which is nothing but the torque or the torsion transmitted by the shaft. Now this torque transmitted by one shaft to the other shaft creates a shearing and a crushing stress on the key. Now this crushing stress is mainly compressive type, is of compressive nature, and so the force F is nothing but the sum of shearing and compressive force. So let us look into the equations involved in the design of a key. So the first equation is the shearing force acting on the key due to the torque. So we have force is equal to shear stress into area. So you have the area resisting shear, which is length into width of the key, into the shear stress is tau. So now the torque is nothing but force into the perpendicular distance. So here the torque by the transmitted by the shaft is force into d by 2, which is the diameter. D is the diameter. So it is equal to L into W into tau into d by 2. Now considering the crushing stress acting on the key due to the torque of the shaft. So now force is equal to area into crushing stress. So we have L into T by 2 into sigma C. So here the crushing stress acts along the thickness um, of the key. So half the key is halfway through sunk inside the shaft, so we are considering the thickness as T by 2. Now the torque transmitted by the shaft is nothing but force into the perpendicular distance, which is nothing but D by 2, where D is the diameter of the shaft, so it is equal to L into T by 2 into sigma C into D by 2. Now when we equate the shearing and the crushing stress, considering that the key is equally strong in both these stresses, we get W by T is equal to sigma C by 2 tau. Now this is the case for a rectangular key. Now if it is a square key, W will be equal to T, so sigma C will be equal to 2 tau, wherein the crushing stress is twice that of the shearing stress. Now, in order to find out the length of the key, we can equate the shear stress equation, the torque due to shear stress, with the torsional stress equation for the shaft, or we can also equate the crushing stress equation of the key with the torsional stress equation of the shaft. So here I have included only the equation wherein we equate the shearing stress of the key with the torsional stress of the shaft, where we can calculate the value of length, which is equal to 1.571 d into tau 1 by tau. If both the shaft and the key are made up of the same material, then both will have the similar shear stress. So the shearing stress of the key, the shear stress of the key and the shear stress of the shaft will be equal. So tau will be equal to tau 1. In that case, L will be equal to 1.571 D. Similarly, we can calculate the value of L even using the crushing stress and the torsional stress equation of the shaft. Thank you.